In this example, we have the function c of x, which is equal to 10x plus 3,000. It represents the cost to produce x number of items. We want to find the average cost function, c of x, and then how many times should be produced so that the average cost is less than $40. Okay, so first and foremost, we can see that the cost function is given by c of x, which is equal to 10x plus 3,000. Okay, and then the average cost function is the following. We would say that the average cost function, which is the lowercase here, c of x, is equal to the big value c of x, right, which is the cost function, divided by x, since that is the average cost function. So in order to find the average cost function, we divide the cost function by x. So now, what do we know that c of x equals? Well, capital C of x is equal to this function. So we're going to replace this c of x with 10x plus 3,000. Okay, so we then know that c of x is then going to equal 10x plus 3,000 divided by x. So now we can say that this represents the average cost function. Okay, so now what we want to do is in part B, it tells us that it says how many items should be produced so that the average cost is less than 40. So what that tells us is that we want to take the average cost, which is lowercase c of x, and we want to make it less than 40. So we're going to replace c of x to be the function that we just created, which is 10x plus 3,000 divided by x, and we're going to set that to be less than 40. And so now what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's a 0 on the right side, and we're going to subtract it to the left side. So that means that we have 10x plus 3,000 over x minus 40. That's less than 0. We can write that as 40 over 1. So we want to combine these two. If we want to combine them two, we know that we need to have a common denominator, which is x. So we know that x times 1 is going to give us x, and then 10x plus 3,000 times 1 is going to give us 10x plus 3,000. Okay, 1 times what's going to give us x? Well, that's x. So 40 times x is 40x. And so therefore, we know that that's going to be less than 0. Okay, so let's go to step 8. If we want to combine the numerator, then we have 10x plus 3,000 minus, and let me go back down here to write the x next to the 40. Okay, and that is minus 40x divided by x, and that's less than 0. So if we combine like terms, 10x minus 40x is going to give us negative 30x plus 3,000 over x, and we're going to divide that by 0. Okay, so now we're going to factor the numerator. So if we factor the numerator, we can factor out a negative 30, and then what's left is x minus 100 over x, which is less than 0. Okay, so now let's find the critical points. So if we want to find the critical points, then we can do so by factoring the numerator, which is 30 times x minus 100 equals 0. If we divide both sides by negative 30, then that means we get x minus 100, which is equal to 0 divided by negative 30 is 0, and therefore x is going to equal 100. Okay, and then our other one, we know that x is going to equal 0, which would make that undefined. So we found out what our answer is. It has to be what? So if we wanted to then look at this in terms of a number line with critical points, okay, if this is 0 and this is our critical point of 100, right? And if we wanted to figure out what's happening with this region, so here is the region that goes through 0, and then here's the region that goes through 100. So we have region 1, we have region 2, and then we have region 3. And then from here, we know that we have the interval that goes from negative infinity to 0 with the parenthesis. And then we're going to go from 0 to 100. And then from 100 to infinity. Okay, so again, the question is asking us, how many items should be produced so that the average cost is less than 40? We don't need to go any further with a testing point because x being any negative number would totally cut out region number 1. So we know that region number 1 isn't going to work. Okay, and so then we got to check region number 2. So if we check region number 2, okay, we can plug that into step number 10. So if we let x equal, let's say, 1, and we have negative 30 times 1 minus 100 over positive 1, is that going to be less than 0? Okay, so we have negative 30 times negative 99, and that's all over positive 1. And that gives us positive 2970, which is less than 0, which is false. So we know it's false for region number 2. Okay, and then if we test anything above 100, let's say 101, we have negative 30 times 101 minus 100. All over 101. We want to see if that's going to be less than 0. Well, that gives us negative 30 times positive 1 over 101. Well, this is going to give us a negative result, which means that it's true. So a negative number is going to be less than 0. So we know that it's true here. And therefore it's true here, meaning that it's anything greater than that 100. So by using what we've already have been able to see there, we can say that our answer is the following. We can say that more than 100 items must be produced in order to keep the average cost below $40 per item.